If you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Now notice what he said there wasn't just keep. He said guard the commands. And I think that this is a huge challenge within the body. Okay, the idea of guarding the commands. Mostly what we find ourselves doing, or at least what I see people doing, is looking for ways to say, keep the commands kind of, sort of, and still do what I want to do at the same time. And that doesn't fit under the word guard. So again, I want you to picture, I've said this before and I want to say it again now, I want you to picture a guard. I'm talking about like a bodyguard, like either like special services for the president, or the guards in front of the queen at some palace somewhere. Guards who are basically sworn duty is to make sure nothing gets through, even to their own life being forfeited. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody's getting past on my life, not on my watch. You understand that idea? Like holding the gun, I'm kind of like have my hands up like I'm holding the gun, or maybe holding a sword, whatever way you want to picture it, old times, new times, whatever. But it's the idea of you are standing guard where your idea is nothing is going to get through, not on my watch. I mean, is that the attitude we have about guarding the commands? Sadly, I don't think so. It should be, though. But all too often, I don't think it is. I don't think that that's the way we take the commands in terms of seriousness, that we're literally saying, not on my watch, nothing is going to tamper with, trespass on these commands. The real growth and forward movement in terms of your moving forward spiritually begins when you start to realize that something is wrong or something is missing in your life or in what you've been doing. And so here, this man recognized that something was lacking, but he didn't know what it was. Now, just because you notice that something's lacking doesn't mean that you're willing and ready to receive when you're told what it is. And see what happens with him. Yeshua says to him, verse 21, if you wish to be perfect, go, sell what you have and give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. When the young man heard the word, he went away sad because he had many possessions. See, he did not actually keep all the commandments. The truth was he was breaking a few. He was coveting. He was idolatrous in some ways, holding possessions up in a high pedestal. And so he had a love for something above his love for the Almighty. And so he was sad. But you know what? I think some of us end up in that same predicament. When you find out what the Torah says, you go away sad. I've had people come up to me and say, well, it's just, I guess this is just my ox in a ditch. Okay, you don't get to use that phrase unless. You don't get to use that phrase unless if you don't do whatever it is that you claim you need to do, somebody or something would die. Reputation's a big part of this. We all walk around all cockily going, I'm a child of the living Elohim. I'm a child of the... And you say all that, and guess what? What are you doing for that reputation that you're claiming upon yourself? What are you doing that people are seeing you do that may be damaging that reputation? Bringing shame instead of glory to that reputation. Because we talk a good talk about wanting to see someone who comes in the name of Yahweh, and guess what? There are men like that today, and we don't honor and respect them. Because we're so quick to dishonor and attack leaders. But you shall know them by their fruit. But then again, remember the prophets were not accepted because the prophets said things that people didn't like. They said the truth, though. But the people didn't like it. There's a lot of people out there that aren't liking some of the things I say. I'm not claiming necessarily to be anybody special, but you know what? Not liking it is not the point. Either it's right or it's wrong. Let's get the I don't like it or I like it out of it. I don't care if you like it or don't like it. That's not important. Because I don't want you, agreeing with me because you like it. I don't want you disagreeing because you don't like it. I want you agreeing because it's right or disagreeing because it's wrong. If we are led by our emotions, controlled by our emotions, or our emotions are out of control, we are not there yet in maturity. We're still very childish. If we have control over our emotions and they're a natural, proper, balanced flow out of circumstance, I'm not saying that we need to be like Vulcans, like Mr. Spock, and have no emotions. No, but your emotions should be natural outflows of things that make sense for them to outflow from, not just emotions for emotion's sake. So in verse 3, he says he's unable to see. The Greek there means also to know or perceive the kingdom. So when we say the word see, it doesn't necessarily mean literally with their eyes to see it. Okay, he may be talking about here the idea of understanding or perceiving the kingdom, having a depth of understanding and perception of what the kingdom of Elohim is all about. He's not necessarily talking about arriving or going there. Because a lot of times when we see the word see, we end up thinking it has to do with arriving at the place. You will not actually get to be there. Well, that's true too. But let's understand there's lots of depth to this verse. I think a lot of it he's talking to Nicodemus about is the idea of knowing and perceiving and understanding what the kingdom of Elohim is all about. So for all those people that think born again has to somehow to do with something charismatic or Pentecostal or whatever, no. This has to do with being in the rebirth of circumcising your heart and being opened up with your eyes and your ears open to receive the truth. And so it's like being reborn. It's like being awakened from a dream. Yeshua says, are you a teacher of Israel and you don't know this stuff? I mean, so a lot of people read this verse and go, why would he be picking on Nicodemus this way? Because Nicodemus should have known what happened here in Yeshayahu, and what happened here in Ezekiel, and what happened here in all these other places. Because how do you not understand this? You understand about this verse about clean water being sprinkled in Ezekiel 37 and a new spirit being put in. This is what Yeshua was talking about, because what was Yeshua about to start? The regathering from every place I scattered you. Israel was intended to be his people. They were intended to bring his name and reputation, his authority, glory, and honor. They were to be his representatives that would then draw the other nations of the earth to them so that they could point the people that are coming to them to him. That is their role. Our role as Israelites is to point people that are drawn to us to the creator of the universe. I shall save them from all their dwelling places, and I shall cleanse them. There's the water part. Cleansing always has water involved. So remember, we're talking about being reborn of water and spirit. There's a cleansing or mikvah or baptism, the washing of the word, all of that water metaphors, and then the infilling of or the indwelling of spirit. This is, by the way, for all those who don't think the Spirit showed up until Acts chapter 2. There's a lot of Spirit going on here way before Acts chapter 2. So that's what he's saying, how we can see who's in the rebirth. Their walk has changed. Their attitude changes. The way they deal with things changes. They're no longer as stiff-necked, and they're no longer uncircumcised of heart. They're now starting to do the things that need to be done with joy and with excitement and with a fullness of heart and with a fullness of their might and strength, like he says, to love him with all might, strength, and being. For Elohim so loved the world, he so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that everyone who believes in him should not perish but possess everlasting life. Now just understand that there's the depth of understanding of that word believe there. You can't just say, I believe he existed, or I believe he exists. I believe that he died. I believe he was resurrected. Because that doesn't mean anything. What does James tell us? James says, I will show you my belief by my actions. So Yeshua says, if you love me, keep my commandments. John says in 1 John, those who say they know him and have a relationship with him and keep not his commandments are liars, and the truth is not in him. So that everyone who believes in him should not perish but possess everlasting life. That goes back to Matthew 19:17, when the man said, what shall I do to have everlasting life? The answer is believe in Yeshua. But what does Yeshua say? Believe in the Torah. Because I am the Torah. He says, do that and you'll enter into life. That we understand that born again has to do with being washed with water and then filled with the truth, the Spirit of truth. What did Yeshua say? He said, I am the truth. And so the Spirit of truth is the Spirit of Yeshua, the Spirit of the Torah, the Spirit of the Word, the fullness of the intent. You know, it says that Yahweh, it says the Father or Elohim is Spirit. Okay, we read that Elohim is Spirit in John chapter 4. So what is Elohim? He's the fullness of what everything was intended. So that if we can embrace everything he intended in the fullness of how he intended it, we can become Elohim-like. That's the goal. How else can you transform and be conformed into the image of the Son? Well, what is the image of the Son? The Son is light. He is life. He's the truth. He's the Word. He's the Torah.